Hello again, I'm Bob Weir with another interview of People in the News. My special guest today is Congressman Michael Burgess, representing the 26th Congressional District of Texas. Thank you for being here, Dr. Burgess.
Thanks for having me in your house. Thank you.
As you know, a lot of people are wondering why many Republicans voted for the massive $1.3 trillion Omnibus Bill. Can you tell us why you were one of them?
Well, look, this is not an easy vote, and not a good process. Several weeks ago, Secretary Mattis, the Secretary of Defense, came to us on the Republican side and said he had two requests. One was for $700 billion for this year and $716 billion for next year. The reason he felt it was necessary to make that request because of two wars that were fought during the Bush administration, and then the sequester during the Obama administration. The military was tapped out. We had people on 15-month deployments during Iraq and Afghanistan. The stories you hear about having to go to a museum and pull a piece off a museum piece to keep a plane flying, that's actually accurate. And then here's the most telling statistic that he shared with us. In calendar year 2017, last year, there were 20 combat deaths and 80 training deaths. So it is 4 times more dangerous to be in training than it is in combat. And that just cannot continue. So I take Secretary Mattis at his word, and you know, President Trump, when he ran, said, I want to rebuild our military. We are going to have the strongest and best equipped military in the world. I think he won on that issue. So I support him in that. Now look, again, this bill, big bill, came late. I'm on the Rules Committee. We were probably one of the first people to get it, to see it. All of the appropriations bills that were contained in this, what's called an Omnibus Bill, and there are 12 separate appropriations bill, all had been voted on in the House of Representatives before the end of the last fiscal year. So before September 30th, we had voted each of those bills in turn. Defense, Treasury, Homeland Security, Veterans, down the line. So it really wasn't like it's the first time anyone has seen this. We've had it through our regular process in the House committees. We've had it through the Rules Committee. We've had it on the floor of the House. The problem is the Senate never passed a single appropriations bill. We have passed the defense appropriations bill 4 times since last September. The Senate refused to pass it one time until Thursday night. So, did the bill have some stuff in it I would just as soon not voted for? Yeah, absolutely. It had stuff that I wanted to support, and I wanted to be on record as having supported. Rebuilding the military, pay raise for the soldiers, funding for the veterans. But as I was trying to do my due diligence, and we spent a long time in the Rules Committee Wednesday night, I was up most of the rest of the night going through trying to make sure that I understood what was in the bill. I got a call about 9 o'clock in the morning from the White House. And they said, we need you to support the bill. And I said, well, I'm trying to do my due diligence. I've got, been through a lot of it. I need to work on it some more. I've got staff going over some things. So we agreed to talk later in the morning. I got a call a little bit later from the Speaker of the House, and I said, I can't talk to you right now. I'm busy. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this bill. And the White House called again. And they said, we really need, the president wants to get this bill done. He wants it to be over, and we've got a new appropriations process we need to get into, and it is time to put this one through to completion. Let me just finish on this thought.
Okay.
What I was told is that the president knows that this is a tough vote, and that the president pays attention when people are with him on tough votes, and he pays attention when people are not with him on tough votes. So, okay, I mean, you know the president's personality. That was actually a pretty important piece of information that they shared with me. And I agreed to support the bill. Now, I was as surprised as anyone at 7 o'clock the next morning when tweet comes out saying I'm going to veto the bill. Well, Mr. President, if you just decided to veto the bill, I'll support you. I'll vote to sustain the veto. Yesterday, I thought you wanted this thing to pass, and I was trying to be helpful to you on that. I actually put a call into the White House. It was never returned, and then the press conference occurred, and the president said, "Oh, I'm going to sign this bill, but don't ever send me a bill like this again." And I think he's right about that. That's really what the problem here is. What needs to change? Look, on the House of Representatives, all you got to have is a simple majority, 218 votes, and you can pass anything you need to pass. The Senate is different. They behave by different rules, and they say you have to have 60 votes to cut off debate. Well, they don't do that on budget bills because budget bills are hard, but then they require a 60 vote threshold on a spending bill, not when the money's budgeted, but when the check is actually written. And it's that 60 vote threshold that's just literally rendered the Senate immobile. They are unable to do anything. As a consequence, again, we passed the defense appropriations bill 4 times, and they refuse to even open it up and look at it. At some point, you're going to have to fund your military. You're going to have to fund veterans. You're going to have to fund all of the other cabinet level departments, which is what the 12 appropriations bills are. But I do agree with the president. The process needs to change. My opinion, I think that 60 vote threshold needs to go by the wayside. It's so last century. We're a different world now, and you need to have that degree of agility to get to run the government. The other thing, and the president talked about a line item veto, I would not oppose that. I think I think that has dealt with a constitutional issue in the past when it was tried back in remember that was part of Newt Gingrich's contract with America. And I think there was a reason that they did not proceed with that. But if that's one of the things that is available to us, that's a tool that I would like to see used as well. I will say this, and you referenced the Planned Parenthood issue. There is nowhere in the bill where there's a line that says, and this will fund Planned Parenthood at $500 million. It just doesn't exist. It's not part of the bill.
So this is misinformation that the public is getting?
Money goes to Planned Parenthood, but it is compensation for services rendered under Medicaid. Now, the president actually last year, when we passed the Obamacare repeal and replace bill through the House, remember it passed the House by 1 vote, failed in the Senate by 1 vote, but it actually did have language that said no money will go to Planned Parenthood. And that was a pretty strong statement. A lot of pushback, even on the Republican side, including that. But we kept it in through the committee process. We kept it in through the floor vote. And again, the House of Representatives is on record for having said, we don't want to send any money to Planned Parenthood. The president does have some discretion. You've got a pro-life president, which is different from the pro-choice president that you had before. Any family planning grant that is awarded by the Health and Human Services actually is going to be awarded by a pro-life administration, not a pro-choice administration. So that part has fundamentally changed. But I do want to emphasize, there is no line item in the bill that says this funds Planned Parenthood at this amount.
Okay, let me just, you've already answered most of the questions I have here before I even get to them, but just to quickly say, what would be the ramifications if the president had vetoed the bill and let the government shut down?
Well, if the president had vetoed the bill, then everyone who had already left Washington would have had to come back, and that's fine. That's what.
And he could have made them do that.
He could have, sure enough, could have made them do it. You'll remember in 2013 we got into got crossways with the Obama administration. House Republicans actually did not pass the budget that he wanted, and the government shut down. It's what's called an appropriations lapse in October of 2013, and that went on for, almost 3 weeks' time. Yes, some things continue to function in the government, but it is disconcerting for our men and women serving in the military when they receive notification that their paycheck will be held until the government funding is turned back on. So these are oftentimes people, as you can well imagine, they live paycheck to paycheck.
And this bill is about half of it is for military funding.
Over half.
Over half. $700 billion for military funding. And this is the sacrifice that the president had to make in order to get this bill passed, he had to go along with, let's say, Sanctuary Cities funding or
Well,
Planned Parenthood?
Sanctuary Cities funding is not in the bill either. And again, a lot of that is up to the discretion of the agencies and the administration. So there is plenty of latitude there to continue to bear down, just as the president has been, with what he's been doing on Sanctuary Cities.
Does he have some authority over how the money is
Yeah.
spent after the bill has been signed?
That's why we vote on the office of the president, and
Okay.
that's why it's so important. Yes, he does have, and it's called the discretionary budget for a reason. He has discretion as to
Right.
how the dollars are spent. Here's the other part of that story, though, and we do need to think about this. 2/3 of the budget is not discretionary, it's what's called mandatory. That means spending that's on autopilot, and that has to be dialed back. Currently, that basically means Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Well, Social Security and Medicare, we've all paid into that during our working lives. There's a 15% payroll tax in aggregate. Our portion, the employer's portion, it's about 15%. We're taking out more as baby boomers than we paid in, so that's a problem and needs to be addressed. But the really unaddressed issue is Medicaid, and that's a tap on a high pressure line with no upper limit. And honestly, I did through my committee, we passed a bill last year that would have put some parameters around the expenditures in Medicaid to move it more from an entitlement type spending, where you send the check in and we write it, you send the bill in and we write the check, to a capped allotment that would be available for states. States had asked for this, they want certainty in their state budgets for their requirements so that they're gonna be required to spend in Medicaid. It seemed like a reasonable approach. It did pass. Again, the House of Representatives, the repeal and replace bill that, I got criticized because I wasn't doing enough or I was doing too much. But $800 billion of entitlement reform was in that bill. That bill still sits over in the Senate hopper. It still awaits the Senate to take it up.
Well,
I don't know that they will this year.
Congressman, I thank you. We've run out of time, but I want to thank you